I'm Ali Zendrian, editor-in-chief of Brand News, and this is the Financial Services News You Might Have Missed podcast. Apparently it's a mouthful. This is where I uncover news gems that may not have gotten a full chance to sparkle, and I dust them off a little bit. I'm joined by my trusted co-host and my personal financial advisor, Brandon Galisi of Galisi Financial. Brandon, how are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. We had to record a little early last week because we celebrated my wife Amanda's birthday at Zion National Park. That was fun. Got some hiking in, and it was overall a good trip. But what about you? How was your weekend and leading up into this week?
Yeah, it's been a good week. It's an interesting mix of, actually, I have to remember to get your address, but I've been trying to do the Christmas cards plus do work things, but it's all getting done somehow.
Yeah. Speaking of, we're wrapping up our list, and don't worry, I've already got your address, so Good to go.
Well, I'm glad that you're organized.
Yeah, slightly. My wife's kind of leading the charge on the Christmas card. I just have to supply a few extra addresses to her.
There you go. Well, thank you, Amanda. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So actually, we are breaking news, which is quite exciting for this podcast. And Brandon, you brought this to my attention, and I was super excited that we could do this. So Elements has a new change of course, which is quite exciting because this is literally the piece of technology that brought the two of us together. So if you would like to update everybody on the state of Elements.
Yeah, so I know that was a lot of rumors and things going around over the past couple months, but yeah, it is exciting news where Reese Harper, the original founder of Elements, and then Wade, he's the former COO, but going to be the CEO of Elements moving forward. So a lot of the vision and the methodology and the framework and all the things like myself and so many other advisors love about Elements is here to stay. The future is secure, which is what Wade shared in his email yesterday. So just really excited because I was officially a brand ambassador. I don't know if I'll have that exact title, but I'm a brand ambassador regardless of whether or not that's a title or not, just because it connected us, and it has just helped me have so many more meaningful conversations with various folks about their money where they truly understand it. They feel more clarity. They get more confidence to take the next step in their finance. They get hope. I couldn't be more of a fan of Elements. So when this news broke yesterday, literally at 5 p.m. Eastern, I was probably 5 to 10 minutes after you got a text from me, and I was texting some other folks too, letting them know that, hey, you can feel good about the direction Elements is heading.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I loved so much about it, so I met them because previously I had done some of their public relations. And so seeing the way that you can visualize a person's the way that they used to term it was financial health, but really like your stats. So if you were to just say, God forbid I lost my job today, this is the current status of everything, what would happen? And you have a global picture of all that. I also am a visual person, so that's particularly helpful. But I think it's great for people to have that kind of information in front of them, because the same way that you want to know from a health perspective, how is my blood pressure? Now you've got all the financial statistics in front of you as well to help you make informed decisions and to know how to feel about your finances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about it. And of course, we've talked about Elements behind the scenes too, but it's always encouraging to hear that, because that's really where I see the value of Elements too, where even clients can get engaged and understand what's going on. And again, what I found is since when clients know what's going on, they have more clarity, they understand, it's much easier to determine collaboratively what the next step should be in their plan, and then actually taking action. Because if we just show this random probability of success and like, oh, you should increase your savings rate, here's a random arbitrary number in the future, maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. But if it's, hey, typical earners have a 15% savings rate and you're more at a 13, do you think that we could find ways to increase that by a couple percentage points over the next year or so? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, again, I could speak all day about Elements, so I will stop now. But very big news, very exciting.
Well, you're a very good brand ambassador, so they're lucky to have you.
Fair. Love the brand ambassadorship. That's a word.
I think it is.
It is today.
Yes. What would have been our first piece of news before we broke news was from Edelman Financial Engines. The company evaluated how people value time and money, which I thought was particularly interesting. Of the 2,000 people they surveyed, 4% of people said that they would prefer to work one less day a week for the same salary, compared to 56% of people who preferred a $20,000 a year pay raise. I put those two together because initially when I read it and I said 44% would prefer one less day of work for the same salary, I was like, yeah, me too.
Right.
That context is key there. Additionally, 58% of people would trade $1 million for 5 extra healthy years. I thought that that last part in particular was really striking, because especially so it feels like in our society we've gotten to this place where retirement is that, oh, let's go cruise around the world, and all the things that we wanted to do that we couldn't do while we were working are going to happen then. But also, like, who knows, did you like break both of your hips? Are you like otherwise not healthy? Whatever circumstances may not even allow that to happen. So I think this concept of understanding that there is something, a connection between time and money, was worth exploring, but would love to get your thoughts on that.
Right. And before I share some of mine, I fully agree with what you're saying, where clearly the data is showing how do we somewhat figure out how to change how we think about retirement, and the classic example of the cruising around the world and putting your life on hold to do all those fun things like you just mentioned. So with that, I've personally noticed a shift, but I want to hear from you, from your perspective, like in your friend groups. And I know you're super active on LinkedIn as well. Why do you think there's kind of been this shift from, we'll call it classic retirement, to, I like the phrase work optional, but something that's enjoy life now while also planning for your future?
This is probably going to show how old I am. I was having a conversation probably a month ago or so, with somebody and saying, in my lifetime, I remember stores not being open on Sundays. That, like, God forbid that you had that school project and it was due on Monday, you had better get your act together on Saturday, because
Oh, no.
otherwise it wasn't happening. So I think as the world increasingly got to this like 24/7, we are always working, our time has gotten sucked up, and there's been less respect for the, like, look, it's after 5 o'clock. I'm eating dinner with my family. You can't bother me right now, because we're always on. So I think that that's increased our respect for, like, there has to be some point where we just say enough is enough and I don't have to do this anymore. Those are my 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Where it's before, maybe if you had 9 to 5, it was probably 9 to 5 and some commute time and you were off. People really couldn't access you for probably a lot of the different jobs. So there was almost maybe more built-in rest on some level of ongoing basis, like even weekly, where people probably got into, tighter routines versus, to your point. And again, maybe it changes a little bit as business owners, but we'll just call it knowledge work in general. Right. It can feel like we're on 24/7. And how do we set those boundaries? And they can easily become gray and they can get moved at times when someone might want something after hours. How do we handle those types of things? So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, where now it's like we need a vacation, because hopefully, and sometimes we still might check email on vacation, but hopefully we can actually get some rest then, because we're maybe not getting it on an ongoing basis. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's kind of from what you said, made me think of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That I personally have gotten to the, like, no, I need a vacation like right now, because I've just like pushed as hard as I can possibly push, and if I don't get that break, it's not going to be cute. I think we've also, maybe because of that, so there's less time then spent with loved ones. There's less time doing hobbies. So all of those different things getting pushed around, it is showing that value of, well, I have to give my time to work because bills have to get paid, but also I want to be doing XYZ. So how do I transition from the one to the other? And I value the fact that then if I get to spend my time, in my case, tap dancing, but in other people's cases, knitting or whatever it is that you want to do, that's very worthwhile versus the constant churn of work.
Right. Yeah, I fully agree. And how important hobbies are, and even rest, where like it can be easy just to be on all the time. And again, as business owners, but how do we find those different hobbies so that we can do some, we'll call it resting, relaxing, before, we for sure need that full vacation, which is so great to be able to take time and get away. But really just kind of going back specifically to what the article is talking about, I love that we're even talking about money and time and seeing some of these trends, because, and you mentioned at the beginning, and I've seen this as well, where people save up their entire lives. They delay almost everything, what I would consider excessive sacrifice. There could be seasons of life where we might need to do that a bit more, spend less so we can save more. But sometimes it's almost the theme of someone's life and they're wishing it away. I had this conversation earlier in my career with clients. I just have to make it 5 more years so I could get free healthcare. I'm just going to tough it out. And they were at a position where, and I was telling them and trying to show them the data. Unfortunately, Elements wasn't around then, so probably would have made that conversation a bit easier. Didn't have access to it then, so I wasn't able to communicate effectively that, hey, you two will be good. We'll figure out this health insurance thing, or at least find something. Maybe it's part-time, maybe it's reduced hours, something to start improving your quality of life now, versus you're essentially wishing 5 years of your life away.
Mhm.
in this. And we're not guaranteed tomorrow, let alone 5 years. What is health like you brought up? So it's how do we enjoy our life now while also planning for the future? And that's a huge philosophy that I have. Obviously, you resonate with that, and my other clients. And I think just more people is what this survey is suggesting, which is kind of exciting because that's my philosophy. And I like working with people that also think this way versus just how do I get the largest bank account or investment balance when I'm 65?
Mhm.
That goal by itself, kind of silly without a deeper
Right.
purpose.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Is it going to line your coffin? Like, no. Or at
Right.
least
Can't
I
take it
would
with
hope
you.
not. So I'm curious if we have more of these conversations about time and money, and if there is that change to the 4-day work week. Crazy projection, but I do feel like we're going to go from the businesses being open 6 days a week to 7 days a week to maybe 5 days a week. Maybe we will get there. I don't know how it happens, but I feel like everybody's collectively calling for it. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, at least I'd say short term, you're the boss of your own business. So of course you have to make sure you've got plenty of time, but maybe there's some ways that you can start figuring out ways to bunch some of your client meetings or client work into those 4 days, and maybe doing some personal testing since you've got a bit more or probably a lot more autonomy than maybe some folks that are in corporate.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. We will see. So, our second piece of news caught my eye basically because the press release headline said financial institutions maximize humanity to find profitability in 2026. So, again, speaking to this whole the why behind the money. White Clay's annual survey showed that 53% of financial institution account holders would consider switching organizations to get a more personalized experience. The press release specifically said institutions should transform branches into quote unquote client experience centers, shifting teams from order takers to proactive relationship managers. I thought that that was quite interesting. And when you think of a bank, I think typically we've thought of it's just in and out transaction, cash in hand, bring check, get cashed. But creating this experience behind it, it seems like that's where the world is going, but I didn't know that necessarily we needed the experience around banking.
No, I mean, what came to mind here was the Capital One cafes that
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's got to be one in,
I'm
at
sure.
least in the city. But there's one out here in Irvine, California. And I mean, I don't right now necessarily bank with Capital One. I think I had gone in there before because they also have a coffee shop. And it would be, if you were already close to that, an amazing place to potentially connect with other people or even just do some of your own work. So I feel like they're the one that comes to mind that's really trying to deliver this experience. You can think of experience in a couple ways. That would be the in-person side, but also what we've talked about a lot is the different fintech that it's trying to revolutionize banking and making transfers happen a bit quicker and having a good online experience, whether that's through a good mobile app. At least a lot of the bigger banks, credit unions typically have a decent mobile experience because I know, at least for me, I off the top of my head could not tell you the last time I stepped foot into a physical bank. So even for you, Allie, when's the last time that you had stepped foot into a bank? Is it recent or longer
Um,
term?
I did take both of the kids. There was a new one that opened near us, but I think that might show the different parts of the millennials that we are. That I went into the bank and you did not. I did definitely within the last month, probably within the last 2 weeks.
Okay. So maybe, yeah, you're a bit more of a, we'll call it a bank goer than I might be. So even deferring to you, like what would you want to see from the experience perspective? Would you be more focused on just, hey, this is an easy experience in the app, transfer money, shift things around? Do you want also more in-person touch, or just kind of tell me your thoughts? Your thoughts.
I feel like I'm probably showing the geriatric of the geriatric millennial, but I tend to go into the bank if I feel like I want to ensure that something's really taken care of. So I
Hmm.
feel like there's some level of complexity that if I hand this to the ATM, I'm not sure that this feels right. But if I give it to a person, which arguably should be backwards, you would think that humans are introducing some level of something getting messed up. But to me, that's the assurance of like somebody heard me and it was taken care of properly and we are good. So I think for me, I'm mostly looking for the comprehensive solutions. And also, when you do need, for whatever reason, like in my case, I will be changing my name soon, things like that, where you have to interact with a person and whatnot, for all those situations to go quickly, because you hate sitting there for like a half hour and it's like, come on, get me just, it's a name change, it's not that hard. And then for people to be nice about it, that at least it's not like wasted my time with your freaking name change.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So just good streamlined processes, but then also for certain things, it's almost more of a way. I think we've brought up the jobs to be done theory on this podcast before, but it would be more of that emotional job, but also functional. Functional in it's going to get done, but the emotional side, you feel more confident knowing that you handed that check to a person or gave that form to a human being, and likely they do take care of it right then versus certain times like mobile check deposit, for example, could potentially take a little bit longer, and you have to then monitor that yourself, make sure that it did in fact get deposited, and then you can destroy it after the set time. Versus if you gave it to someone in person, they're probably doing everything that needs to happen right then and there. Yep. So I can see that. So really the experience still is just that still would be semi order taking, but just still making sure that it's pleasant. You don't necessarily need some red carpet rolled out whenever you walk into the bank.
Well, although in this case, so since it was a new bank, there were like balloon structures and whatnot. So I think my daughter especially got a little taken back by them. Apparently to her, banks should always have balloon structures.
There we go. That's the client experience. Just get some balloons. That's probably pretty cheap to implement.
You would think. So our next piece of news is from accounting agentic AI platform Maxima. And it announced a social media initiative aimed at giving accountants a little treat in the midst of their stressful close of year. They are going to be focusing on the physical and mental toll accountants face during the close season. What people can do is encourage professionals to highlight accountants on LinkedIn who are dealing with long hours, repetitive workflows, and posture-related strain. You nominate those people via LinkedIn. They potentially get a 1-hour Swedish massage voucher courtesy of Maxima. So if anybody wants to participate, please feel free. It just also seemed encouraging that somebody really is worried about the physical and mental well-being of these professionals, because I can imagine, talk about somebody who like pushes and pushes and pushes till they need a vacation. That's probably the definition.
Right. And again, if we're being stereotypical, it's even the stereotypical accountant, right? Dealing with potentially similar workflows and all those repetitive tasks like the article and you were mentioning. And again, often it's almost exclusively desk work for accountants too. And there are tight deadlines at times, whether it's close season here, obviously we've got tax season upcoming. So something like that come middle of April or beyond, I'm sure those accountants would love some massages after that. But at least from my understanding, it's incredibly important for the industry as a whole, but specifically accounting, I think often works those long hours and has these tight deadlines and don't necessarily get to take care of their physical, mental health too. So the fact that they're calling that out is, I think positive.
Now, so to combine kind of our first piece of news in this one, I would be kind of curious among accountants as a profession that it seems to make relatively decent amount of money. To what end would you want something like either A, like less days in the office, or B, opportunities to do things like, oh, hey, once a month massage or whatnot versus your compensation? I'd be curious if they similarly have some kind of feeling one way or the other.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, because accounting is one of those fields where, again, there are typically tight deadlines for everyone. Again, tax, I think most people are familiar, even if they're not an accountant, how tax season works, or that tax preparers are going to be incredibly busy because everyone's taxes are due effectively within 3.5 to 4.5 months. Sure, now you've got some extensions and we can get into those nuances, but it's tight time. There's not a way to quote unquote get ahead of work. If you're working with a tax client right now, you can maybe do some projections and whatnot, but that's pretty much it. They're not going to get their forms until likely after February anyways. So it's not like you can just get ahead of things. And then I think, one tough thing in the industry is potentially undercharging, missing expectations with clients on not charging enough, and then not being able to communicate effectively throughout the year, because every second or every minute that you're talking to someone that you undercharged, potentially losing profitability for those firms. So I think it would be interesting to ask them, hey, would you take more time off, or do you want to make more money and work the same hour? So it would be cool to even break this down by industry.
Yeah. Well, if you are listening, first of all, nominate yourselves or get somebody to nominate you for a massage. And secondly, if you want to answer our question, feel free. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So our last piece of news is a shout out to Matt Halloran, an industry staple, prolific podcaster, speaker, and just all around good guy. He's been named Zocks Chief Evangelist. The press release said, in this newly created role, Halloran will lead education efforts around AI adoption for advisors. So this has been an issue that we've talked about on the podcast of, where does AI fit and where does it not? I'd be curious to see what you think of a role like this existing to help advisors figure that out for themselves.
I think it makes a lot of sense, because if you just say AI, which can be a buzzword these days, even inside the financial advising space, most people, I think at this point, as some of the data has suggested, people are at least somewhat open-minded as a majority, but I think there could easily be overwhelm. I mean, you talk to one person, they're using ChatGPT, someone else is using Claude, I'm using Perplexity, others are using, and there's so many. It's like, well, which one do I use? Well, then we start trying to Frankenstein this together because, well, Claude's better at this, and maybe ChatGPT is better at this one. And now, even just talking this out loud, I could see how someone would be overwhelmed with something like that. So to have a trusted source like Matt, who knows a lot about AI, the advisor space as a whole, seeing, I'm sure he's already seen thousands of use cases for or what different advisors are doing. So to be able to have a trusted source of just tell me which ones I should go to, just guide me in the right direction. I'm trying to solve X, Y, or Z, and knowing that person's like, oh, well, this firm over here had a similar situation. Here's why I'd recommend X or this particular AI tool. So very long answer to your short question. Yes, I think this is a valuable role.
Yeah. Oh, well, I appreciate long answers. So I don't think it mentioned this in the press release, but on his LinkedIn and otherwise, he's going as Matt GPT. So I think
nice.
Super smart, very cute, and agreed. I think any trusted source that you have to help guide you through things, whether you agree, disagree, at least you got some valued opinion versus the slosh that's on the internet that you're trying to then sift through and figure out what you think, and who has time for that?
Right. And a lot of people, because of that, and because of the limited time and the overwhelm that we're talking about, you add those two together, and then typically no action gets taken. And now on a recurring basis, you might be extra busy, or again, doing tasks that easily could be automated to then free you up to do whatever you want. Get a massage, take a vacation. I mean, if you could have a tool that accomplishes the admin, again, assuming quality of work, and it saves you a bunch of time, now you get to do whatever you want with that time. So yeah, so reducing overwhelm, reduce time. And so I think this is a really cool role.
Thank you. And yes, so apparently if we had it our way, massages all around and AI all around as well.
Right. Yeah. AI automation that empowers the flexibility to get those massages.
Well, thank you as always for going along my tangents that include AI and massages. And thank you for bringing to me, you were the reason that I knew about Elements breaking news. So congratulations and thank you to you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got the email from Wade yesterday that he had sent out to the bunch of Elements users, and I was just so stoked. I was like, I've got to share it with Allie and see if we can share it on the podcast, which we got to today. So yeah, I always love these conversations. We have a tentative game plan for where we're going to go, but it's always fun to see where the conversation takes us to for some of the unscripted moments, if you will. So another fun one today, Allie.
Thank you.